Said it once, and you know I'm going to say it again. You guys rock. You're awesome. You're always here. I know, short notice. It just something that occurred to me, and I just felt the need. I had to do this podcast. But first of all, greetings, all you wonderful women and men, you blokes and Sheilas, you freedom fighters, and of course, the true source of divine light, the freedom lover. Sips to you lot. You know, like a lot of people try to envision what heaven might be like, and all I can see is freedom, liberty, and no one telling me what the fuck to do. It sounds like heaven to me. What we have here, I would say, is hell. And let's have another look at hell today, shall we? So, look, I'll give you a heads up. I'm running this all by myself today. There's no one helping in the comments section, so I'll be running it myself while simultaneously trying to do this all at once. You know, I'm going to conjure up a Jesus miracle. I'm going to let that divine light flow through me so that I can master everything I need to master for the day. So yeah, I'm still a bit crook. I'm going to be coughing and spitting shit into the bin. That's just how it rolls. I hope, all the ladies can keep their knickers in, some sort of order. I know there was a few people that were astoundingly turned on by it. I'm sure it's overly so, but, it was all fun and games anyway. So g'day, Marita64. G'day, how you going? So let's get into it. So as I mentioned on Friday, there's a new book has come across my path. Here it is. You can find it on the Telegram channel. For those of you who haven't figured it out yet, here's a scanny thingy if you want to do the scanny thingy, or you can just go to Telegram and type in @NQ_freedom and you will find us, and then you can download your own copy of this. I got it for nothing, so of course I'm going to give it for nothing. It's available on archive.org. It's there for everybody. I'm just making life a bit easier for you. So the secret world government, or the hidden hand. Now, I want to dive into this a lot further a little bit down the road, but I'm going to have to do it on Patreon because the nature of this book is going to be scrubbed from the internet. I'm surprised I was even able to find a copy of it, to be honest, because what's in here is fucking astounding. But what I want to look at is one thing that I really thought was extremely entertaining. The thousands of authors. Now, I should, for those who don't know, this is 100-year-old book to the day, or at least to the year. This was written in 1926. It is now 2026. How auspicious is it that it has come across me 100 years later to the day, or to the year? The thousands of authors who have written the history of the last 150 years, so we can make that 250 years now quite comfortably, especially once you read this, seemed to be blind and to be nothing but reporters on Grand. And what I loved about that was, like, it didn't just bag authors for being blind in their, regurgitation of history, but it dragged them into the lowest of low of literary circles, the reporter. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with the undertones of this writing, that the reporters are, of course, some of the lowest forms of literary people you'll ever come across, and the reason being is right here in the next sentence. They never go to the roots, but just glance at the surface and then offer their dead pictures without conscience. The way I would look at it is kind of like, staring at the surface of the lake, not actually throwing a rod in to catch a fish, not throwing a net in to scoop something out, not even sort of having a bit of a look or even diving in, just looking at the surface, seeing the reflection of the sky and thinking, well, it must be the fucking sky. Welcome to reporting. It's absolutely astounding. This book is really good for ripping into the fact that the incurable imbeciles, have been rampant for a long fucking time. I'm not going to get too much into it. I just wanted to start there because I thought it was fucking hilarious. Because I was reading this and I'm a little bit further into the book at the time. And then I get a message from a friend, sent me a video, and it's inspired me to go, right, what the fuck is with this flat earth thing? I've got to suss this out. So let's start with some basics. Let's break this down as best I can. What do we got here? You're great. That's good to see. Awesome. Hope you enjoy the content. So I ask the Brave AI, as it is here, can Brave AI help with writing ideas? Now, the reason I've done this is because I don't want to sit here and argue with AI over what is real and what isn't. I want to explore the idea. So, setting the mood of AI straight away that we are writing a book, and this is for fictional purposes. But as any good writer or study of the literary arts will know, that if it's particularly when you're writing fiction or even non-fiction, although there is a bit of a gray area there, you've got to know what you're talking about. So you backsheet up with what you actually can observe and see in reality, which makes it a perfect battleground for uncovering information, especially when you're dealing with AI, which has no doubt been engineered and guided to send you in a specific direction. So, in order to combat that directional flow, I've given it the idea that we are playing in a fantasy world, and this is just a research project for the purposes of fantasy. It makes it a lot easier to deal with, and it's helped me get through quite a lot of problems I've encountered with AI where it blocks you because this is bad, this isn't good. How long's this been going for, brother man? It's been going for about 9 minutes, and most of that was me talking shit. So you've gotten here just in time, man. Just in time, Jason. As I was saying, I'm running the whole show myself. I know it's a bit short notice, but look, I had an idea and I wanted to do it. So as I was saying, can Brave AI help me with writing ideas? It says yes. Brainstorming, drafting assistance, and iterative process. It acts as a collaborator to test ideas and analyze writing, which has worked fucking brilliantly for the purpose of this. So the idea being, one of the things I find difficult to comprehend with the whole flat Earth concept is why. The big why. Everything should start with what's the motivation here. So in the purposes of my writing of a story, I want to know what is the motivation. So if there was a story of a flat Earth based on as much true science as possible, and forgive the bad typing, I'm just like, I wasn't planning on doing this as a freaking podcast, it just happened. What would be the motivation for a flat Earth world to be to convince the population that the world was round when it was not? To me, I'm trying to get to the crux of it. Why the hell would there be the world's most full-on conspiracy this is a big one? If the world is indeed flat, and it's a big if, because I don't actually believe that, but I want to try and understand the concept. What would be the motivation? Why would they want to spend thousands of years, because it's been that long, trying to convince you the world is round when it's actually flat? What's my motivation here? So in a fictional story where the Earth is scientifically flat, but the population is convinced it is round, the motivation for such a massive deception would likely center on control. I'm like, okay, cool. That sounds about right, because what do we know about our government and our elitist scumbags throughout all of history? They love control. Resource hoarding. Yep, that's another way of controlling people. And theological preservation. So preserving the concepts of specific religious control systems, perhaps. Based on common arguments within flat Earth conspiracy theories, here are primary motivations an elite group might have. So, 1, hiding infinite resources and land. The most pragmatic motivation is the extent of lands beyond the ice wall, which is an interesting concept because I haven't actually heard of anybody really say that. But I'm sure there's somebody out there who thought of it. It's interesting. Is it just this infinite friggin' land, and and the ice wall is preventing us from going any further? Is there some beautiful utopian society on the other side of it? Perhaps. Who knows? Wonderful fantasy. We are dealing with the idea of exploration of ideas here. So, all right. So the resource monopoly expanded. If the Earth is an infinite plane or simply much larger than admitted, the elite / governments and space agency could be hoarding vast continents of rich in oil, minerals, and arable land beyond the Arctic barrier. I mean, the other thing is perhaps there's populations there. We don't really get into that, but let's just stick with this. Convincing the population the world is a finite sphere limits the ambition to the known globe, preventing mass migration and exploration that would dilute the elite's power, which is an interesting concept. Well, we've discovered everything. Why are you still looking? Interesting. So there's a roadblock there. There is a legitimate reason, and reasons I hadn't previously perceived. Population control. By believing the world is closed, finite sphere with limited resources, the population accepts scarcity, rationing, and strict borders. And these are things that they've always tried to enforce, revealing an endless frontier would disrupt economic systems based on scarcity. 2, concealing the dome and divine creation. Hang on, actually, there was a few. We better bring some comments in here because I'm doing this. Anything, sis? And g'day, Nikki, Jason. Yep, that's a shit show. That's for sure, brother. Yep. Well, I was late to the idea myself as well. Isn't pregnant? I don't think I am. Turning you on again. Up some. Yes, I will be harking up many a loogie, and my ability to hark loogies has certainly brought the population up a few people. So what can I say? Live north. It would be us. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a funny thing when you look at the flat earth thing. There's people here who actually think Australia is a fantasy, and we're all actors in it because Australia doesn't fit the flat earth mold. Like, like the straws that some people grasp at to maintain their version of reality is quite interesting. I'm pretty confident I'm not a paid actor because I'm fucking broke as fuck. So anyway. So 2, concealing the dome and divine creation. A theological motivation suggests the deception is designed to hide God or a creator. The firmament. Many flat earth models include a physical dome firmament enclosing the world, and I've heard this many times. Admitting this would force humanity to ask, who built the dome? The question is invariably leads to the conclusion of a superior intelligence or creator. And I suppose when you're trying to kill religion out and remake it in your own image, the form of Satan, for instance, greed, lust, and let's just take, as we see in the elitist circles all the fucking time. The sickest of sick is the elitist scum, and of course they want to destroy God. So I guess in that case that kind of works. Enforcing atheism and secularism. By promoting a heliocentric infinite universe model, the elites remove humanity from the center of creation, which I think is the most amazing, arrogant concept you can think of. But anyway, this fosters a sense of cosmic insignificance. Does it? Personally, I think it fosters an idea of the things are a lot more than we are, which I think is far more fantastic and far more inspiring. But anyway, encouraging secularism, relativism, and a reliance on scientism rather than faith. The lie keeps humanity feeling like an accident of evolution on a random rock rather than the protected inhabitants of a designed enclosure. And that's interesting. Like, I mean, again, is that something people are comfortable with? And I'm not a flat earther, so I don't really quite comprehend it. This is an attempt at understanding that. Is there some comfort in thinking that you're in this giant fucking petri dish with a beautiful little glass dome over the top, protecting you from all the evil things that are out there in the universe, and that you are God's greatest fucking, creation, and he loves you so much that he leaves you here on this earth with horrible disease, famine, government, elitist scum, banking cartels, like, that's how much he loves you. He trapped us in here with the fucking sickest pedo scum we've ever come across. So yeah, anyway. Maintaining political and psychological control is point 3. The deception serves as an ultimate tool for psychological dominance. The aquarium effect, much like, the petri dish. If people knew they lived in an enclosed flat system like a fish in an aquarium, they might attempt to breach the boundaries or question the nature of their reality. Oh, well, we don't want to break the dome because God knows what might come flooding in, eh? Keeping them believing in an open, spinning globe makes them feel free while they remain contained. It's an interesting concept. I can't, in the pursuit of freedom, the idea of being trapped in a fucking petri dish with a dome over the top of it is even less appealing to me than the idea of living on a globe full of sick fuck pedos who are running the show. I mean, straight, either reality is not really my first choice. I'd much rather go to the ignorant bliss of, hey, footy's there to keep me happy, and that, if I just keep drinking, I won't notice. Trust me, it doesn't work. Dependency on authority. A model requiring complex physics, gravity, relativity, orbital mechanics makes the average person dependent on experts. And we all know about these experts, these fuckwits in white coats waiting to get the right amount of money to tell you what they've been told to tell you, to explain reality. A flat earth model is often intuitive and observable by anyone. By enforcing a counterintuitive model, the elite ensure that only they possess the truth, reinforcing a hierarchy where the masses must blindly trust institutions like NASA and academia. You know, of course, we don't have much faith in any of these things, but we'll get to that in a minute. Financial embezzlement. A simpler, cynical motivation is greed. Wow, it does seem to keep the world floating. Our economy, which is a complete and utter farce. And as I was told by our now mayor, Nick Demetto, he was told by fucking Bob Catter, mate, you got to understand, money doesn't really exist. It's because it is fake. It's a fantasy. If you got rid of money, no one would fucking know the difference. At the end of the day, a whole bunch of bean counters are trying to fucking justify notes on their sheets that no longer matter because it was all bullshit. Sips. So Nick reckons divide people more, keep them busy fighting whether it's flat or not. I agree. If I swing a bucket of water and the water pushes outwards like a ride gravitron, these are observable physics, fundamental things, and I've amazed many a child by doing that. Okay, let's keep going. So, the summary of the deception logic in this story, because we are writing a story, remember, this is all fantasy. Just as I said at the beginning of this is all for entertainment purposes. In this story, the round earth narrative is not just a scientific error, but a prison of the mind. Truth. We live in a stationary flat plane under a dome. So obviously AI was going to say this is why I wanted to set with the, this is a fictional story so that it would play along with what I'm trying to achieve here. Flat plane under a dome, surrounded by endless land and protected by a creator. The lie, we live on a spinning insignificant speck in a vast godless void. So we're going through what the plot points of the fictional story I'm trying to create are. The goal, to keep humanity small, scared, resource-starved, and spiritually blind, ensuring the elites remain the sole masters of the known world and the gatekeepers of the unknown. Now, it's pretty hard to argue with that diagnosis. When you look at it, you can pretty much fit that into humanity as a whole right here, right now, and go, wow, I'm sold. World must be flat. Because that's what they're fucking doing. That's what they're doing. So it's really easy to fit a conspiracy, it would seem, that the world is flat into a round world and play it out like this. Astoundingly easy. So, and like I until I'd explored this, I hadn't thought in those particular ways. I agree with the conclusions that yes, keep humanity small, scared, resource starved, and spiritually blind. I can see that's what they're doing. They've been doing it for thousands of fucking years, and ensuring the elites remain the sole masters. Of course, they don't want to give up power. Emperor Palpatine points this out to us in Star Wars. And the gatekeepers of the unknown. Of course, they're gatekeeping. They gatekeep fucking everything. What the fuck is the Vatican? What are the Jews always done? They're always hiding everything. All these religions are always hiding things. They call it the occult. This is masterful stuff. And the more you look into any of these religions, you will find that there are elements, particularly within the Old Testament, where knowledge has been suppressed, distorted, and you're looking over here instead of looking over here because they want you over here where you can't see what's going on. They don't want the left hand knowing what the right hand's doing and vice versa. They want everything compartmentalized and distorted. So it's really easy to see how this concept fits. So anyway, how do maps account for flat earth distortion is my next one, because I'm thinking, right, well, how does this work? Because, you look at a flat earth map, and Australia is now this really stretched out fucking long thing. And if that was the case, based on the, the flat earth map that you see, it would take us a shitload longer to get from, say, Victoria to Western Australia than it, in the sense that we should be able, in the same time that it takes to get from Victoria to Western to say Perth, to get from Victoria to Townsville, we should be able to do that about 10 fucking times, because now the top end is squeezed and everything's like this big, long, oblong thing. To me, living here in Australia makes it really easy to see that the flat earth map doesn't actually work, because we can actually travel those lands. I know I've traveled all the way up to the north. I know people have traveled out to the west. I've done it by plane. I haven't done it by car, but those distances and the kilometer gauge on your car, the kilometer, you don't have to trust the GPS. You can actually check the kilometers on your fucking car. Maybe we'll do this one day. We'll do a huge fucking road trip. We're going to drive all around and test all these things and actually map out how long it takes to get from here to here to here and prove that the fucking flat earth thing doesn't bloody work. But that's another day. Anyway, so how do back to the question, how do maps account for flat earth distortion? In standard cartography, maps do not account for flat earth distortion because the earth is not flat. Again, it's really hammering this point home. However, in the context of the story where the earth is flat but mapped as a sphere, the distortion works in reverse. If the world is truly flat but mapped using spherical projection, like the Mercator or Gleason's map, the map would introduce artificial compensation and curvature to hide the true geometry, and I believe and to go along with what I was saying, let's show it. Here's an example of it, Here's an example of us poor fuckers here in Australia. Look at the distortion in order to fit it into a flat earth scenario. It doesn't fit, does it? Well, I mean, you can clearly see the distance between here and Townsville should be fuck all, and I can tell you, I have driven from Victoria to Adelaide, which is roughly about there, right? Which according to this is the same distance from here to fucking to Cairns, Townsville, I guarantee you it's not that way inclined. I've driven there and it took about 8-9 hours, and driven from here to here, it took me 4 fucking days. Do the math. It's pretty simple stuff, So that real life experience here tells me that I can't accept this as an actual map, So anyway, where are we? So go through this. So there's the ice wall as a projected artifact. On a true flat Earth, Antarctica would likely be a massive spherical continent or ice barrier to convince the population the world is round. Map makers would make use of North Polar azimuthal equidistant, I think that's how you say it, equidistant projection, often misidentified as the flat Earth map, hence the one I just showed you. The distortion. This is projection. The outer edge Antarctica is stretched to a thin, continuous ring. In your story, this is a deliberate lie. The map compresses the vast, infinite lands beyond the ice into a narrow, untraversable white rim, making the world appear finite and closed, hiding the edge. By distorting the outer edge into a circle, the map hides the true scale of the flat plane. It turns a potentially infinite frontier into a South Pole point or ring that seems impossible to cross, enforcing the idea of a closed sphere. A lot I could go into in that concept, but we're just going to go through what I've dealt with here. Fabricating southern hemisphere distances to maintain the illusion of a sphere maps must falsify distances in the southern hemisphere. I'm going to punch a couple of comments in as we do this. Flight path deception. In your story, flight paths like Sydney to Santiago, which is really interesting they chose Sydney. Oh, impressive, isn't it? Had to throw a whole bag of that shit out just earlier. Anyway, that should be long. Straight lines across the flat expanse are curved on the map to mimic great circle routes on a globe. This forces pilots and navigators to follow curved paths that feel wrong on a flat surface that are necessary to maintain the spherical narrative. The Gleason Compromise. Your story could feature the Gleason's map, which we've looked down in these ones down here, as a leaked or forbidden truth. The reality, the Gleason map is actually a projection of a globe, but flat earthers claim it as their own in your narrative. It might be the only map that accidentally reveals the truth because its extreme distortion of the southern hemisphere, stretching Australia and South America, is actually an attempt to force flat plane data into a spherical grid. The cover-up. The distortion people see on standard maps, like Greenland appearing huge, is usually blamed on projection math. In your story, this distortion is reversed. The map shrinks the true vastness of the flat world's exterior to make it fit a global model. So, anyway, this is a bit of a summary, but we don't really need to. We get to the point. So, my next question: have all countries and previous civilizations believed the Earth to be flat? Because it's kind of something that you tend to get told that, oh, everybody used to think it was flat, and then they woke up one day and realized it wasn't. Can you map out the actual history of countries embracing round Earth? So, like, I mean, here we are getting into what is history actually telling us. Allegedly, after we already established here at this secret world thing that thousands of authors who have written the history of the last 150 years seem to be blind, which is why a very important thing to add that at the beginning, Anyway, is how much faith can we have in people that couldn't fucking manage even the most basic of things? So anyway, no, not all countries or cultures believed the Earth was flat. The idea that humanity universally believed in a flat Earth until recently is a historical myth, apparently. I mean, we are taking this from AI, and during the course of this, I am going to point out a flaw. I haven't had a chance to go through the whole thing. I'm just like, wow, this is really funny, and I want to do this. In reality, the concept of the spherical Earth was established by educated societies over 2,000 years ago. What else happened about 2,000 years ago? Apparently, some bloke in a beard and long hair may have looked as charming and as sophisticated as me, may have also been able to turn normal water into something more palatable. Oh, I tell you what, it's hard. It's hard, but we do what we can. Early civilizations, the flat Earth origin belief. If the flat Earth was common only in very early antiquity and primarily among pre-scientific or mythological cultures, Mesopotamia and Babylon, early cosmologies, the 3000 to 1000 BC. So we're going back quite some time there, 5 to 3000 years ago, depicting the Earth as a flat disk floating in an ocean covered by a solid dome, otherwise known as the firmament. Ancient Egypt generally viewed the Earth as a flat expanse with a sky goddess Nut. Like, really, the sky goddess called Nut. Scratch my nut here. At least the one that I will do publicly. Archiving over it. Arching over it, sorry. Though some later texts suggest more complex views. More complex than a sky dome. Early Greek. Before the 6th century BC, poets like Homer and Hesiod described a flat Earth. Other regions, ancient cultures in China, India, and Americans initially held flat Earth views, often seeing the Earth as a square or disk surrounded by water. In India, this view persisted in some religious texts, Puranas, until the Gupta period, early centuries AD, while in China, the dominant Gaia Tian theory described a flat Earth under a round heaven until the 17th century. So it would seem the Chinese were possibly the last to catch up with the idea that the world wasn't actually flat. But that's still apparently debatable to this day. The shift to sphericity. Ancient Greece, 6th to 3rd century BC. The transition from flat to round was a scientific breakthrough that occurred in ancient Greece and spread rapidly through the educated world. Very interesting choice of words. I'm sure every flat earther just wanted to scream and yell and potentially punch a screen at that point. But hey, these are not my words. These are the words of AI as I attempt to figure out what is going on. All right, Pythagoras at 500 BC, often credited as the first to propose a spherical Earth, likely based on philosophical aesthetics, the square being the perfect shape, and observations of lunar eclipse. Now, you got to remember, there's a lot more going on with Pythagoras than we're told. It's not just a fucking, triangulation theory that you get chucked in school and hate because it leads you into trigonometry and various other algebraic concepts, which I know hurts a lot of other people's heads. Personally, I thought it wasn't that hard, but that's just me. Don't ask me to spell any of those words. That's where I fall down, but that's a whole nother thing. Aristotle provided empirical evidence, noting that the Earth casts a round shadow on the moon during eclipses and that different stars are visible from different latitudes. So here we are applying some basic gray matter. Again, this actual observation. So we come back to the idea that, you know, flat earthers are going, well, no, I can see the world's flat. Well, there's actually a more complex system going on here, like the shadow of the Earth on the moon, for instance. You know, it's observable, you know, and as always, and I didn't get into it here, but, you know, please, flat earthers, explain to me solar and lunar eclipses. Go. I'm all ears, you know. All right. I'm not even going to try and say that name, some Greek fella in 240 BC. You can figure it out. It's written right there. You do it. A Greek mathematician who not only accepted the spherical model, but calculated the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy within 1 to 2% of the modern value. That's pretty fucking good for somebody over 2,000 years ago. By measuring shadows in Alexandria and Syene. So that's pretty good, you know, and a lot of this does come down to fundamental mathematical observation. Anyway, adoption. By the 3rd century BC, the spherical Earth was settled fact in heliocentric astronomy. This knowledge was inherited by the Roman Empire and later by Islamic scholars during the Golden Age of Islam. Now, that is a fucking hilarious concept I'm going to have to look up a little bit later because I don't see a golden age of Islam. If there was gold involved, I'm pretty sure it was covered in blood. But that's just my perspective. We'll dive into that in later podcasts as I dissect further belief systems. The Middle Ages, contrary to popular myth of Dark Ages ignorance, virtually all educated people in the Middle Ages knew the Earth was round. So there you go. They weren't burning people at the stake, apparently. That's pretty much what they were telling me in high school just a few years ago. But AI is now telling me that that's bullshit. I guess we're coming back to this original concept played out here in the secret world government, that the thousands of authors who have written the history of the last 150 years seem to be blind and to be nothing but reporters, because there's no lower literary standard than reporter. All right. The myths and origins. The idea that medieval people believe it was largely invented in the 19th century by writers like Washington Irving in his fictionalized biography of Columbus. So here we go. Here's another example of history being fictionalized. Astounding, isn't it? And later promoted by historians like John William Draper and Andrew Dixon White to create a false narrative to conflict between science and religion. So that's because science itself is trying to become its own form of religion, as I've always tried to point out to those who are 100% fucking science. It's like, you realize this belief system, and when challenged, they get upset about it. No, they don't. Well, you just fucking did, mate. Sips. Global acceptance timeline. The acceptance of the round Earth was not simultaneous globally, but followed the spread of scientific education, exploration, Mediterranean and European, accepted by intellectuals by 300 BC, common knowledge among the educated throughout the Middle Ages. Islamic world fully adopted it in the 8th and 9th centuries, of course, always behind the rest of us. India, mixed views. While early texts described the flat Earth, astronomical schools, siddha hats, adopted spherical models by the 5th and 6th century, so they weren't too far behind themselves. Influenced by Greek astronomy. Again, the Greeks seem to get a lot of shit right, and I would also like to point out the earliest versions of Christian Catholicism style Bibles that I've managed to track down seem to also come from Greece as well. So there's a lot going on there that we should probably be looking at, when trying to figure out what's happened. China, the spherical model was introduced by the Jesuit missionaries and in the 16th and 17th century. So last to the party, it would seem, gradually replacing traditional flat earth cosmologies among scholars. I guess when you build a wall around your whole country to keep everybody out so you can stay in your own insular little bubble, you're going to be a little bit behind the hot times. Mass public knowledge. While scholars knew the truth for millennia, it only became common knowledge for the global general population with the rise of mandatory public education. Now, this is a problem here. Mandatory public education in the 19th and 20th centuries, which we know by going through, I think it was 1910, and go through some of the stuff that's written there in the Australian legal system, that we all signed an agreement internationally to tell history in a certain way. Anyway, centuries and the advent of space travel imagery in the 20th century. So, all right, let's keep through. We don't need the public summary because we've got the idea. We just went through it all. Can you analyze in the same way ancient monuments and cultures such as Mayan, Aztec, Stonehenge, Druids, Germanic and Icelandic cultures, as well as indigenous tribes such as the African Dogon and Aboriginal Australian? Why did I ask that? Because I read a lot of shit. All right. I'm not going to get into it. I'm sure if especially the African Dogon, you're probably going, what the fuck? I've never heard of that shit. If you haven't, you should check it out. Fascinating stuff. How the fuck do they know, for instance, that there is a trinary star system in the Sirius system? How the hell do they know that? Science today is still debating whether it's a trinary system or a binary system. But anyway, there's a bunch of spear chuckers with funny masks who fucking figured it out. Go figure. I'm going to need some more Jägermeister. I'm finding it's better than cough lollies. A, it tastes better, and B, it works just as well. And makes me feel a lot better about the fact that I feel like shit. Anyway, Mayan Aztec civilizations in Mesoamerica. Both cultures predominantly held a flat earth cosmology in their religious and mythological framework, though the astronomical precision suggests they observed curative without integrating it into their worldview. The flat disk model, the Maya viewed the earth as flat, four-cornered, so hence the four corners of the earth, often symbolized on the back of a giant crocodile or turtle, hence Discworld, floating in a primordial ocean. So obviously when Terry Pratchett was nutting out the idea for a brilliant story, set of stories, I think there's 42 books, possibly more. I do have pretty much all of them here. I love them. They're absolutely brilliant. Because to me, Terry Pratchett's idea of the flat earth was like a display of all the dumbass ideas put into a world, and this is what it would look like if your dumbass ideas actually existed. But anyway, he obviously researched this shit, hence the fact that in his world, the disc sits on the back of four giant turtles, which resides on the back of a giant tortoise, definitely a turtle, because it's not tortoises walk, turtle, swimming through space with the sun and the moon revolving around it. So anyway, and it's of course floating in a primordial ocean, which is an interesting concept. The four corners were supported by gods, not elephants or trees. Similarly, the Aztec cosmology described a flat surface divided into 5 directions, center plus 4 cardinals, with 13 layers of heaven above and 9 layers to the underworld below. The astronomical paradox. Despite the flat mythological model, both civilizations were sophisticated astronomers, and this is why I wanted to bring specifically that culture in, and various other, Mason style ones. Not the filthy Masons who want to, fucking fuck children and do horrible things. The ones who actually created things. Despite this flat mythological model, both civilizations were sophisticated astronomers. The Maya tracked and solstices and tenth passages with such accuracy that some scholars argue they could have deduced the Earth's curvature by observing shadow differences at different latitudes, but chose not to incorporate it into their religious art or cosmology. Their focus was on a layered vertical universe rather than a spherical horizontal one. And that's again, the astronomical paradox in this one is very intriguing, which is why I wanted to really dive into that. And I'm going to have to look into it a lot further, because to me, if you have that astronomical knowledge laid out in that way, you should know the world is round. It makes perfect sense, when you look at things mathematically. But anyway, Stonehenge and the Druids, ancient Britain. So there is a significant historical disconnect between the builders of Stonehenge and the Druids. And we have a lot of problem trying to figure these things out, because the Romans were very efficient at destroying knowledge. You know, another one of the big problems in our history is the desolation and the destruction of vile, evil fuckers, which complicates which complicates attributing a specific earth shape belief to the site. In fact, we don't know a lot about the Druids thanks to, you know, good old fucking Roman Empire. Fucking assholes. Fucking eye ties. Bringing an old World War II one. Sips, sorry for all you Italians out there who took offense. It's not a shot at you, it's a shot at your history. Stonehenge, builders, Neolithic, Bronze Age, construction between 3000 BC and 2000 BC. The builders left no written records. Their cosmology was likely tied to the land and the sky circles, solar and lunar alignments, which is to me, the more I look into all the religious and spiritual beliefs that I look into, because I don't prescribe to any specific one. I'm only interested in fact and knowledge. You know, all seem to come down to the sun and the moon, the night and the day. The sun sets because Horus and Set had a fucking thing going on. Go and look up the story of Horus and Set. I'm not doing it today. But whether they conceptualize the Earth as a flat disk or a sphere is unknown. So we don't actually know. Most Neolithic European cultures implicitly operated on a local flat horizon model. And I guess when you're living on a shitty little island like fucking England, Britain, whatever you want to call it, you know, the United Kingdom, if there is such a concept as the United Kingdom, because they all seem to be at a fucking war with each other. Anyway, I forgot about the comments again. Sorry, guys. I can't see the comments today. Sorry, that's my fault, Nick. I'm trying to do everything as once, but what's important here is what I'm trying to say. So, g'day, I'm me, the last free Kiwi. How you going, brother? I haven't seen you in a while. This is more from Nick. How far between the coast of Australia and the coast of America is all the water between? All water contained within a container will be level. Is it? Is it? Because if I hold this up, you'll actually see it kind of lips up on the edge of the glass. So that's an interesting concept, isn't it? Physics does some interesting things. And not everything is as cut and dry as we like to look at. No worries. Anytime, Melinda. I'm not sure what you're thanking me for. Oh, that'd be for coughing things up. Anytime. For you, I'll always cough stuff up. You know, I don't swallow. I don't know about the rest of you, Mom. I tend to spit it out. I'm talking about phlegm, you dirty bastards. I don't know where your mind went. Fucking hell. All the world's oceans oceans are connected and are not separated by land. That is true. Does the water stay on your balls in the shower or does it run off into the drain? Well, I don't know about you. I tend to find I need a towel at the end of it. But hey, you might have a magic ball sack. Hello, cookers. Wow, of course we're cooking. We're cooking leftards today. How you going, leftard? Gotta love trolls. Like, you know, nothing lets you know that you are so important in the universe that they feel the need to come in and rain on your parade. What a bunch of pathetic scumbags. You know, I couldn't think of anything lower than being a fucking left-hearted troll. You know, I mean, go and buy your own fucking house. Stop living under my bridge, fuckwit. Puppy troll alert. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Oh, good. I'm going to try and run this all by myself, so we'll keep going. It's fine. Let's see. So Stonehenge and the Druids, ancient Britons. So the Druid, we did the Stonehenge builders thing, didn't we? The Druids, the Druids emerged much later, 300 BC. So there's a bit of a, you know, whoever the builders are, we don't fucking know. The Druids are something different. And, you know, they were nature worshippers. So that I'm reckoning I'd get along with them pretty well because I think nature, you know, looking into natural religion is far more appealing. The older the style, the more it seems to be connected to the earth and how we connect to it, which unlike monotheistics seems to separate us from these things, you know, giving us dominion over the land and give a sense of self-entitlement and shit that I just can't buy into. Anyway, Sips. The idea that Druids built Stonehenge as a flat earth temple is a 17th and 18th century invention. So I didn't even know about that one. That's a good one. Notably by William Stickley. I'll have to check these things. Like I said, I didn't go through and check everything. There's only a couple of things I pointed out that I knew were wrong. In reality, the Druids likely adapted the site for its existing solar significance, regardless of their specific cosmological geometry. And in this particular point, I would refer people back to, say, the Dark Crystal, and right at the beginning there, they're rehearsing ancient rituals in a blur of forgetfulness. I kind of feel that's where we are as a human species. We are definitely been deceived, lied to, tricked, turned, twisted, fucked with so many ways by elitist scum over thousands upon thousands of years that we actually have really lost what really once was common knowledge. And here we are desperately trying to find what's going on. And what do we see? It's not an ice wall. It's a barrier of elitist scumbags, leftards, and fucking trolls who are just happy to live in their absolute ignorance. But anyway, or at least maintain our ignorance, and those who are defending it are living in their ignorance. But that's another story. Sorry, I just said it lost the connection, but apparently didn't. Anyway. So where are we? So the Germanic Icelandic cultures, the pre-Christian Norse and Germanic peoples generally held a flat Earth cosmology in their mythology, with persistence which persisted into the Icelandic sagas even after Christianization. We all know about the Midgard. Midgard was a disc, or at least I do. The Earth Midgard is described as a flat disc surrounded by an impassable ocean. In the ocean lies I'm not even going to try and say that. I'm not that well up, that the world serpent, which bites its own tail. I thought it was interesting they had a world serpent there, whereas the black fellow, talk about the rainbow serpent. It's interesting. And there's a lot of snake worship going on in ancient days. I can tell you that much. And to this day, because what's the medical symbol that they use to this day? The snake around the fucking sword, again, taken from ancient Greek. There's a lot going on there. We need to look in, but we'll get there another day. So, again, another word I'm not even going to attempt to try and pronounce. The cosmos is structured around the world tree, which connects the 9 realms for all of you guys who have been watching Thor and whatnot in the Marvel universe. The flat disc of Midgard sits within the vertical structure. Nuance, while the mythology is flat, Norse seafarers, Vikings, which is again why I brought this in, because of their seafaring ability and their ability to track themselves through open ocean on those fucking boats. It scares the shit out of me just thinking about it. But anyway, were expert navigators who crossed open Atlantic. Like other seafaring cultures, they likely observed the curvature of the horizon, ships disappearing hull first. In practice, even if their stories described a flat disc guarded by giants and serpents, by the 13th century, when the Eddas were written down in Iceland, educated Norsemen were aware of the spherical Earth from European learning, yet the old flat disc myths were preserved as cultural heritage. And of course, when everybody's been believing things for so long, you don't really want to piss people off. The Dogon people of West Africa, the Dogon of Mali, present a unique and controversial case, which is again why I specifically named them. While their traditional mythology contains flat Earth elements, they are famous for claims of advanced astronomical knowledge. Traditional cosmology, some Dogon myths describe the Earth as a flat disk formed by the creator god Amma, often paired with a sky dome. The spherical claim in the 20th century, anthropologist, notably Marcel Graeul, I think I say it, and someone else's name will probably fuck up, reported that Dogon priests possessed knowledge of the Earth as a sphere that rotates on its axis and orbits the sun, alongside knowledge of Sirius B, which I spoke of earlier, a white dwarf invisible to the naked eye, which is also considered to be trinary by them. And still, like I said, science is still trying to fucking figure out what's going on. Analysis, most historians and astronomers argue this knowledge was likely acquired through contact with European missionaries, because it couldn't actually be what the Dogons say, which is the people from Sirius came down and told us. But anyway, I mean, you have any idea how many native cultures have that thing? Like, I mean, Seven Sisters, for instance, that Pleiadian system, so many actual ancient cultures point to the Pleiadian system. They talk about the Seven Sisters story. They're all over the fucking globe. So I don't know how they got to this information, but it must have been because of European missionaries. Of course, they know everything, don't they, European missionaries? Fuck me dead. They'll fucking do anything to try and cover up something they can't quite fathom. The Dogon could represent a culture that retained ancient spherical knowledge, while the rest of the world reverted to maintained flat myths, which is probably a better construct. I'll accept that over the bullshit missionary thing. That's utter crap. I'll wash that away about as fast as I'll fart tomorrow. But anyway, sips. So the Dogon thing is huge. Highly recommend you look into it. I'm not going to go any further. We've got a lot to get through. And holy shit, we're nearly an hour in already. So the Aboriginal Australian cultures, this obviously it's going to struggle, and it has. Indigenous Australian cosmology is diverse among hundreds of distinct language groups. Yes, 369 different tribes, which is an interesting number, wouldn't you go? 369. But a common theme in traditional dreaming stories is a flat Earth model with sophisticated observation astronomy. The flat disk and dome. Many groups traditionally viewed the Earth as a flat disk surrounded by water. Well, look at the country. From tribe to tribe, side to side, they all see water as the end. The stars were often seen as fires or spirits shining through holes in this dome, which is interesting because I think I actually have a quote here from one of my favorite movies that will go along with this. If I was a little bit more forethoughting. Where is it? Forethoughting. Is forethoughting even an acceptable concept? Like, that's a pretty fucking shitty sentence on my behalf, wasn't it? You almost called me a leftard being that dumb. Anyway, it didn't seem to be here. Could have sworn I had that one here. Must have pulled it out. No, well, I'm not going to find it now. I was going to keep going. So, observational use, despite the flat mythological model, Aboriginal astronomers were keen observers. They tracked the changing positions of stars relative to latitude, noting that different stars are visible as one travels north or south, which implicitly suggests an understanding of curvature. So, anybody watching the stars should be able to see the curvature. Of course, it's just a projection on the dome, says some. But anyway, some recent analysis of oral traditions suggests that while the myth was flat, the practical knowledge used for navigation and seasonal tracking accounted for the Earth's spherical nature, similar to the Maya and the Norse. And there's a wonderful little thing here that goes through and explains it all. It's, feel free to have a quick squiz at that if you want. Pause it and go and have a look. I'm going to quickly grab a block of ice while you have a look at that. And top up my cough syrup. It's important to medicate when sick. I'm not going to go see some snake oil salesman. I'll go see the man at the bottle shop. And no, thanks to the fella from the bottle shop, by the way, who, he was at the Liquorland one. And I said, what's a bottle of Yag worth? And old mate's like, well, apparently it's $70+ or some shit, I think it was. And I'm like, wow, I ain't paying that, brother. And he's going, well, mate, we do price match. And I do happen to know it's $47 down the road. I'm like, oh, I was about to say that about $47 at Dan Murphy's, yeah. He's going, righto. I can't in good conscience charge you $70+ for something I know is worth 47. I'm like, you're a good lad. Let's go and sort this out. So thank you very much. And it's a shining example of true humanity where you go, you know what, I'll get paid the same shit wage regardless. Who gives a fuck about West Farmers and all the other filthy maggots who are making a shitload of money ripping off the Australian public? So thanks heaps to that wonderful human being. Sips to you. So anyway, let's continue. So I like this, though. In your fictional flat Earth scenario, because it is fictional, remember, that's how we set the premise. These cultures could represent different factions, and Maya Aztec as the architects of the deception, using math to fake the globe. The Norse as the explorers who hit the ice wall and were silenced. And the Dogon as the ancient guardians of the true spherical knowledge, or conversely, the true flat knowledge, if your story flips the script again. So I've obviously been flipping things backwards and forwards, and it's throwing ideas. And that's the idea. This is just about brainstorming concepts, How did the Incas conceptualize the Earth's shape? Was the next question I asked. It was actually one of those easy ones to pick. So I thought, well, I want to know a little bit more about those South American things. So they seem to have some very interesting knowledge, particularly, in their calendars and whatnot. So the Incas conceptualized the Earth primarily as flat, square disk divided into 4 quarters, surrounded by a cosmic ocean rather than a sphere. The worldview was deeply symbolic and tied to their political and religious organizations, not geometric astronomy in the Greek sense. So there's a lot in there. I don't really want to get into this one because it kind of rehashes a lot of things, but it's some fascinating stuff. What I have done is actually grabbed all this, put it into a little document, and I'll upload it onto Telegram again for anybody who wants to go in a little bit further, because I'm going to skip a few things. Otherwise, we're going to be here all bloody day, and I've already spent a long time going through this. So in the summary, for your fictional flat earth narrative, the Incas could represent a culture that perfectly mapped the true geometry of the flat plane. So, you know, the truth in the story, they knew the world was a flat square centered on Cusco. The deception, the round earth lie, was a foreign concept introduced later to hide a true extent of the 4 quarters in the cosmic ocean. Them damn Spaniards going in there raping and pillaging and taking care of an otherwise peaceful culture that had a wonderful time ripping people's hearts out and drinking blood and wearing people's skins and shit, you know, because wow, what an amazing culture. Anyway, the evidence, the secular lines, well, actually, that was more the Aztecs than anything, but anyway, the secular lines and the layout of the Cusco serve as an ancient, undeniable map of the flat earth, which the globe elite try to dismiss as mere religious symbolism. So what has spawned the modern desire to return to this flat earth modeling? So I'm like, well, let's have a look. What does AI actually think is the motivation behind the flat earth psychological construct that we see today? And again, I'm sure there's people out there that actually are flat earthers and probably don't like what I'm saying, but look, it's just an exploration of ideas. You can do whatever you like. In a grand period is over 5 million years old. I agree. I'd say closer to 11 over 5 million. I don't know about over 5 million, but it's definitely a hell of a lot older than several thousand. Means place of camp on Mars. Okay. Yep. I don't know about that. I'm dubious of people sending me links in these comments, sort of thing. You know, I mean, it's going to Rumble. Couldn't be too bad. It says mind control, Buddhism, Freemasonry exposed. Oh, look, you know, I'm willing to have a look when I get a chance. Let's keep going. So, what does AI think has spawned this? So, the modern desire to return to flat Earth modeling is not driven by new scientific discoveries, but by convergence of 19th century pseudoscience, psychological needs, and digital algorithm amplification, which nobody wanted to hear that answer. But anyway, it is what it is. The 19th century revival, Samuel Rowbotham. So again, I'll have to look into this a little bit further, but you know, at face value, let's accept it for what it says. The modern movement traces its direct lineages to Samuel Rowbotham, 1860 to 1888, an English inventor who revived the flat Earth concept under the banner of Zetetic astronomy. The Bedford level experiment in 1838, Rowbotham conducted experiments on a straight stretch of the old Bedford River, claiming that because he could see a boat's flag at 6 miles distance, the water showed no curvature. He ignored astropheric refraction, which is a term I'm going to have to look into a little bit more. Why don't we just get a quick glimpse on that one? Because I actually meant to do that earlier and I fucking forgot to come to it. So let's just put it into another. Right. So is the deviation. So astropheric refraction is the deviation of light or other electromagnetic waves from a straight line as they pass through the atmosphere due to variations in air density with height. As air density increases closer to the Earth's surface, the refractive index increases, causing light rays to bend toward the denser medium. The phenomenon affects the apparent position, shape, affects the apparent position, shape, and timing of celestial and terrestrial objects, which is very interesting concept. I mean, it's come out of Wikipedia, so fucking how much faith can you put into that one? But let's can you just give me the goddamn picture? So it's basically saying that light bends around the atmosphere, and that's why, you know, all those people who go, but I can measure, and according to the calculations, it should do this, it should do that, you know. But the light is bending because of the spherical nature of the atmosphere, it says. hey, you can just say that's complete fucking bullshit. Go for your life if you wish. But it certainly does explain why on a full moon, you see that full moon and it's fucking huge on the horizon. And then as it comes up into the sky, it gets a little bit smaller. Observation. So anyway, which bends light over water. The pub published the findings in the Zetetic Astronomy, Earth, Not a Globe, 1849. Trust your eyes. Rowbotham's core philosophy was that truth comes only from direct sensory observation, which kind of cuts you off from the ethereal world of, you know, spirit and God and all these kinds of things, doesn't it? Because if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. So which way do you want it? You know, because it's interesting. I find a lot of people, you know, refer to the Bible as their strong point for the firmament and all these other things. But, you know, you want to trust my eyes, but I can't see God. So go figure. You know, you're riddled in contradiction. Organizational roots. After his death, his followers formed the United Zetetic Society. The movement lay dormant until Samuel Sheldon arrived in 1956 as the Flat Earth Society, and later Charles K. Johnson expanded it in 1970 and 90s by framing NASA photos as Cold War fabrications. Now, although I might actually agree with the concept that a lot of NASA photos are quite possibly Cold War fabrications, including the moon landing itself, I believe that's quite a possible hypothesis. I don't prescribe wholeheartedly to any one thing, because in the absence of knowledge, all we have is theory. But, you know, at the end of the day, Cold War fabrication fits the fucking bill pretty bloody good, and we'll search into that deeper as we go. We're only halfway through this. We've got a lot to go through. So the digital explosion, algorithms and commonality. So post 2014. Now, this is very important because, you know, if you want to try to understand this and you really do truly want to go down the search of truth, stepping outside yourself and stepping outside what you actually believe, like, I don't know if it's round, I don't know if it's flat, let's look at it for what it is. This is a very important point to make. So while the ideas existed for over a century or thousands of years, for another point of view, the movement exploded globally after 2014 due to the rise of social media, particularly YouTube. And I have to say, my observations, what I've seen with my own eyes, I would agree with that, because I remember sitting down with a good friend of mine a long time ago going, oh my God, we have this fucking ridiculous history teacher at school and they think the world's fucking flat. And we used to laugh about it. We thought it was the dumbest fucking cunt you could ever come across, you know? And then not long, 20 years later, here he is going, the world's fucking flat. I'm like, are you for fucking real, man? Seriously? Remember we used to laugh about that? Anyway. So while the idea existed for over a century, the movement exploded globally after 2014 due to the rise of social media. So the rabbit hole effect. Platforms like YouTube utilize recommendation algorithms that prioritize engagement over accuracy. And this is very important to understand how the social media narrative fucks with you. You know, it's feeding you more of what you want, not what is actually right. Users watching conspiracy content were fed increasingly extreme videos, creating a rabbit hole that normalized flat earth theories. So if you keep looking up flat earth, flat earth, flat earth, flat earth, that's all it's going to keep popping up in your fucking YouTube thing. I don't know if you've noticed that shit, you know. I find it really frustrating because I'd actually like YouTube to suggest things that are a little bit different from time to time, but it continuously keeps drawing me back to the same thing. It's like, no, I'm trying to expand my mind. I want to go elsewhere. I want to do different things. But it doesn't want you to do that. It wants you to stay there watching the same shit to generate more ads. That's what it's about. It's, again, here's the money. Key influences. Like, Mark Sargent, former video game designer, launched the Flat Earth Clues series in 2015. Never heard of the guy. Unlike early combative proponents, Sargent used a calm, conventional tone to recruit skeptics. And they even put the in little talkie points just for you. Framing the belief as a journey of independence. Water doesn't bend around a ball. Yeah, I've heard all the ridiculous fucking arguments. Like, seriously, that's stupid. I can't help it. Like, I like the ideas behind the arguments made by flat earthers. Fucking, it cracks me up. There were crustaceans wedged in the joints of Great Pyramid through hydraulic force, i.e., flood dated at 5 million years. Why 5 million years? Why couldn't it have been 11,000 years, which would actually coincide with the archaeological record of a flood? Rightio. Cool. Thanks, man. I'll have a look at it, dude. No worries. All right. So, key influences, we've gone through that. His videos, along with Eric Dubay, gone by millions of views, transforming a fringe hobby into a global subculture. And look, I've looked at a lot of flat Earth stuff. I've seen a lot of people try to convince me. I had a friend here stay with me for 2 months, and every fucking day I had to go through the world's really flat. I'm like, okay, cool. You think that? That's wonderful. Where's your proof? Oh, he had 2 months and he couldn't come up with one fucking thing that I was able to go, okay, you've got a point here. Not one. So I send the challenge out there. Anybody can come up with something that you can actually prove, real proof, not some speculative picture from fucking random bullshit. Oh, look, there's a blue rock in a museum. We can't even read the labels, but that's Sky Rock, says you. Anyway, visual proof. That's what I don't want visual proof. I want actual fucking proof. Prove to me it is. The internet allowed for a rapid spread of manipulated images and decontextualized clips. Water always finds its level. You've heard that crap, isn't it? Water doesn't bend around a ball. Come on, guys. That served as visual evidence for believers. But, funnily enough, liquid does seem to bend once it hits the edge of the glass. I don't know that you can see it, but you can, it's go ahead, pour any liquid you like into a glass. And then, wow, it bends up. Oh, okay. How's that work? Have you ever like put a drop of water, just a drop, on the end of your finger and looked at it and noticed that it's fucking round? Just an idea. Anyway, visual proof. The internet allowed for the rapid spread of manipulated images and decontextualized clips. Water always finds level. That serves as visual evidence for believers, bypassing the need for complex scientific literacy. And I get it. Complex scientific literacy does seem like a bit of a psyop sometimes. These guys could fucking hide anything in this shit because they're speaking a whole nother language, which again is another systemic problem in the world today, where they made things so unnecessarily complicated that no standard person can figure it out. So it's just easier to go, fuck it, the world's flat. I get it. Psychological drives, why it resonates. So, psychologists identify 3 core needs of the modern flat earth movement fulfills. And here we go. All the people who actually love flat earth are going to really hate this. Epistemic need. I instantly seen Epstein in there, and I thought, really? You're gonna... Anyway. Phlegm sits at the bottom of a bin quite well. I don't know if that proves a flat earth or anything, but anyway. The world looks flat, so it is flat. It removes the confusion of abstract physics, gravity, relatively in favor of common sense. And look, at the end of the day, gravity doesn't really exist was an argument made by fucking my flat earth mate. So I picked up my thong and I dropped it. I'm going, right. So my thong fell, right? We accept that it's gravity. We may not know why or how it works, but it is an observable fact that gravity dropped my thong to the fucking ground, mate. Anyway. Existential needs, control and significance. Believing the earth is unique, enclosed creation, often with a dome, restores human significance. So if you're feeling a little insignificant, apparently this is the way to feel more significant. It suggests humanity is the center of the universe. Oh, wow, it's an impressive collection at the bottom of that bin. You should see it. It suggests humanity is the center of the universe, protected by a creator rather than an accident on a tiny rock in the vast, indifferent cosmos. So I don't really agree with either of those particular elements. It's very chalk and cheese, because I don't see how the shape of the earth really changes your perspective. Like, I mean, if you think you're the center of the fucking universe, whether the world's flat or round doesn't really change that, at least not in my mind. Social need, uniqueness and belonging. The movement offers a tight-knit community for those who feel alienated. And of course we do. I've felt alienated all my life. It doesn't mean I believe the world's flat. It satisfies a need for uniqueness. Well, I know I'm unique. I can see what's in the bottom of my bin. Believers feel special because they possess secret knowledge, like the contents of my bin, that the sheeple, and that's an accurate term for most people, the general public, do not. Leaving the movement means losing this social identity and returning to being ordinary. Now, I think that's a little melodramatic myself, but look, at the end of the day, this is the opinion of psychologists and psychiatrists and things like that, people who are good at administering drugs and, not really addressing the needs. I pity the fucking psychologist that ever have to sit down and have a conversation with me, because I reckon he'd probably find himself more insane than I walked in feeling by the end of the session. But that's just me. Sips. The role of distrust. The modern resurgence is inextricably caused by a crisis of trust. I like this, crisis of trust in authority. Now we're getting somewhere, right? International skepticism, even like the Iraq War, 2008 financial crisis, and perceived government overreach have eroded trust in experts. Of course, because they're all paid for it. It's obvious as fuck. The governments can lie about wars and economics. Believers argue they can certainly lie about the shape of the earth. And look, at the end of the day, have a look at Elbow. If that cunt said good morning, you'd go and look out the window to see if it was. If Elbow said to me good morning, I'd expect to see it was midnight. But anyway, the grand conspiracy. The movement posits that NASA, governments, airlines, and scientists are all complicit in a massive deception. That may be so. I don't believe that the conclusions are correct, though. For believers, the sheer scale of the lie confirms its importance. They view themselves as brave truth tellers fighting for a powerful elite. All right. And don't we all? Mm-hmm. Summary. The modern flat earth movement is a social and psychological phenomenon enabled by technology, it reckons. So look, I don't think we need to go any further than that. We get the idea. So, okay. So to rationalize this with the facts, it is safe to say that government has lied and many money masters have manipulated, lied to gain more wealth and power. Do you agree is the question I've asked of AI. It flat out says yes. No fucking about, straight out yes. It is historically and factually accurate to state that governments and powerful financial entities have lied and manipulated populations to secure wealth and power. Now, this is where we start to turn things into a reality, from theory at the very least. I'm not going to say that flat earth is a complete fiction. I don't really buy into it. It's not really my thing. But I'm willing to agree with the fact that the observations these people make do conclude the fact that fundamentally we are dealing with a pack of fucking lying, filthy dogs. And as pointed out by, the secret world government hidden hand, 100-year-old book openly said the thousands of authors who have written the history of the last 150 years, by now 250 years, seem to be blind and to be nothing but reporters. All right. So it's pretty obvious that we're dealing with, a massive conspiracy, perhaps not the one that people are going for, though. Right. And I love the fact that AI has come on board with this, because this is where things really made me think, I've got to do a podcast now. All right. AI has masses pulled to center. Righto. Where's Jackie? I thought look, we're going to sort that out. And you reckon she'll give me a good run for my money? That I reckon we're going to have some fun. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, we'll get there. There is no provable flat earth model, regardless of what 7,000 people believe. To be honest, I'm looking for the facts, and I've recently I was given something that fucking, here's the flat earth map and they've made this fucking thing, but cartographers turn the fucking globe into a flat earth. It's not a fucking great achievement, so it doesn't really prove shit in my way. All right, I'll have a look. Thank you. I'll check that one out. I'll star it so that I know to come back for it later. Thank you. Give it a go. Don't know about drinking turpentine, but anyway. This is as close to terps as I want to get, Sips. So we have here documented government deceptions, and this is where things get really good. History provides numerous verified instances where governments deliberately misled their citizens for strategic or political gain. They've done it once. They've been doing it for thousands of fucking years. Do you honestly think these people are going to change? The Tuskegee syphilis study And, you know, as one of those things I looked into quite extensively right at the beginning of COVID 1984. I already knew about it, but I wanted to reiterate this into the kids as fear porn was rampant. I wanted to show them, and these are the kind of things we're looking at while in lockdown. I was educating the children. Look at the lies. Look at the bullshit. This is what we need to see here right now. No, you cannot trust them. They are full of shit. All right. The U.S. Public Health Service knowingly withheld treatment from African American men to study the disease's progression, lying to participants about receiving care. It's all right. We're giving you medicine. You'll get better. You'll get better till they fucking die. What sick bastard does that? The Gulf of Tonkin incident, 1964. Declassified documents later revealed that the U.S. government misrepresented or fabricated details of naval attacks to justify escalating the Vietnam War. Any wonder people don't trust them. MK Ultra, 53 to 73, for 20 fucking years. The CIA conducted illegal mind control experiments on unwitting citizens, a fact denied by the agency until congressional investigations in the 1970s. So fortunately, they caught it, you know, on its way out, but fuck me dead. You know, how can you trust these people? You know, this is Central Intelligence Authority. Fucking bullshit. Yeah. I could come up with an acronym. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, WMDs in Iraq, 2003. Governments presented intelligence regarding weapons of mass destruction that was later proven to be exaggerated or false, leading to a prolonged war. Here we are doing the same shit with Iran. Do you believe them? Why would you? There is no reason to give any of these people any fucking faith at all. Like I said, if they say good morning, I want proof. Financial manipulation and wealth consolidation, money masters, as I call them, corporate elites, bankers, and monopolists have repeatedly manipulated systems to accumulate wealth at the public's expense. 2008 financial crisis. Major financial institutions engaged in predatory lending and sold toxic assets as safe investments. When the bubble burst, governments bailed out these institutions while ordinary citizens lost homes and savings, illustrating a manipulation of the system to protect elite wealth. And there's that good old L, the L that we find in the Bible, the meeting of the L from Yahweh himself. Yes, we can see how much these people actually think they're fucking gods, because they don't give a fuck about you, and who gives a shit what happens to us? Hey, we're just the goy, we're just the serfs, we're just the fucking slaves. You know, this is the crux of what we should really be looking at. Anyway, the LIBOR scandal of 2012, global banks were found to be rigging the London interbank offered rate, a benchmark interest rate affecting trillions of dollars in loans purely to increase their trading profits. Monopolistic practices, historical figures like the robber barons of the 19th century and modern tech monopolies, very important thing we need to deal with right here and right now, have used anti-competitive practices, lobbying, and regulatory capture to stifle competition and maximize profits, often manipulating laws to their advantage. Any wonder there's a systemic failure in trust? All right. Distinguishing fact from fiction. There's more here. We can get into it. You know, the conclusion is you are correct that distrust of authority is often grounded in historical fact. That's the key thing. You can read the rest of it yourself. I'll put it up on Telegram. Is it fair then to say that government, and this is my question to AI, is it fair then to say that government and wealthy elites are the true cause of this phenomenon due to their, evil and manipulative behavior? It is particularly fair to say that government and elite manipulation are the root causes of the distrust that fuels the flat earth movement. But it is not accurate to say they are the direct cause of the belief itself. And fundamentally, it goes in and it does point out that, yes, historical lies by the government and financial elites have created a fertile ground for conspiracy theories. Of course. What else are you supposed to do? They lie, they deceive, they fucked with the truth, they fuck with the history, they fuck with the newspapers, they lie about absolutely everything. You know, so of course, conspiracy theories are going to thrive, as I've said a million fucking times, that, you know, at the end of the day, in the absence of knowledge, all we have is theories. It's fundamentally the basis of science, but not when it comes to conspiracies, apparently. The valid premise. So yeah, so proven deceptions, as noted previously, events like blah 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 blah. The consequence, these events have eroded public trust. This is the point. The consequence. These events have eroded public trust, leading many to reasonably suspect that institutions like NASA, the media, and global banks might be lying about other things too. Might be. We know they are. The only question is, what is the lie? We know they're lying. The question is, what is the extent of the lie? How much of that lie is based in reality? How much of it is a distortion of truth? At the end of the day, until we start getting actual truth telling, which again, I'm going to segue here. Again, why does Aboriginal truth telling have to cost? Don't you just fucking tell the truth? Is it that hard? How does that cost? The only thing it can possibly cost is a bunch of liars, their fucking face. That's the only thing it's going to cost. For the rest of us, it's thank God we finally got there. In this sense, the suspicion is a rational response to actual evil and manipulative behavior. So AI agrees. These people are evil and they manipulate. Thank you. I'm really glad that AI can agree with me on some fucking fundamental facts here. The logical leap, misplaced application. However, attributing the specific belief in the flat earth directly to elite manipulation contains a logical flaw. And obviously that flaw is fundamentally that on the surface, and the AI has done the reporter job here, it's given us a surface value. So let's look at the surface value. No evidence of this specific lie. So that we can't actually come up with any real evidence. And like I said, I'm waiting for people to come up with it. While elites have lied about wars and economics, there is zero evidence that they are lying about the Earth's shape. The motivation for the flat Earth conspiracy, hiding infinite land, hiding God, is speculative and contradicts the practical needs of those some elites who rely on satellite GPS, global communication, weather data that require a spherical model. The real beneficiaries, the primary entities profiting from the modern flat Earth phenomenon, are not the governments. And the governments are not directly profiting, is what it reads to say, and we'll clarify that soon. But social media algorithms and content creators are the ones who are profiting. So all the people who are telling you all about this and saying, hey, give me some money, give me, they're the ones who are profiting. Platforms like YouTube, Facebook prioritize engagement, so they're profiting by advertising revenue. So because they just want to keep you watching. They'll tell you whatever you want to hear, so long as you keep watching. So you got to be mindful of that too. Like it's not some amazing godlike a coincidence that when you were looking this after one thing, next thing, oh my God, there's another flat Earth theory. That's the way the algorithm's designed. So it's not like some God intervened and fucking did something amazing for you. It just is. It is what it is. So anyway, I'll look into that later. I'll start that one. Oh, I agree with that. They fucking oath they hate Jesus. That's actually really well pointed out in this book here, which again you can find. This book you can find that on my Telegram account. Of course, I know they hate Christianity. I know they hate the idea because at the end of the day, the more I look at the things that Jesus said, the more it was a case of he didn't have much fucking respect for that bullshit religion. That's for sure. So 7,000 people can't be wrong. Right? Isn't it like 1 million Japanese people can't 1 million? What was it? 1 billion Chinese people can't be wrong about rice. Not if you don't like it. Doesn't mean shit, does it? Maybe the one person on earth that hates rice. Who gives a shit if 1 million fucking Chinamen eat it? Like, good for them. Hey, I don't mind rice. I'm not saying rice is bad, but just to put it into context. Anyway, psychological factors versus extreme control. Research suggests the movement is driven more by internal psychological needs than external coercion. I'm not going to get into it because, you guys are already pissed off about that as it is. You know what they say about you, but, fundamentally, the government created distrust makes people susceptible to conspiracy theory. So it is fundamentally, AI is agreeing, yes, the government is a major factor in the problem that is allegedly flat Earth. So in shaping the story, and I wanted to bring AI back to the idea that we are still dealing in the story realm, that we're brainstorming ideas. The shaping of the story, I would like to test other ideas. What evidence, if any, of psychological operations by intelligence agencies, such as, but not limited to the CIA, to keep truth seekers distracted away from what they may uncover as actual truth? And then to me, this is the real crux of it. And I'm sorry for all users so invested in flat Earth research. I honestly believe that it is a psyop. That's what I've always kind of believed. And I'm, like I said, I'm not completely discounting it, but this is the way I honestly feel it is going. Is this a valid point, as it discredits whistleblowers or researchers when flat earth is mentioned? So the fundamental principle here is that as soon as you can have all the facts in the world, you could show everybody exactly where the government's lied, the banks are full of shit, religions are farce. Everything is just a way of controlling you, mind, body, and soul, as I continuously state. All right. You come undone when you go, and by the way, did you know the world's flat? And people will literally just go, whatever. You may believe that. That's fine. I would highly recommend you keep it to yourself if you do, because anything that you say that is of worth will be instantly dismissed as a result. That's this, and this is understanding the psychology of those who don't want to hear that. And it is a case of they don't want to hear it as much as they don't believe it. I'm willing to hear it. I just don't believe it. There's a difference. I'm always willing to listen to ideas. But anyway, yes, it is highly valid and strategically sound point for your story. So not only but the fact that it makes it believable in the story makes it believable in the propaganda world as well. And that's the important thing. And that's why I set this whole thing as a story. There is documented historical precedent for intelligence agencies using psychological operations, otherwise known as psyops, to promote absurd conspiracy theories, specifically to discredit legitimate dissenters and whistleblowers. And to me, this is the greatest concern, and it always has been. I don't care if you think the world is flat, but if your opening statement is the world is flat, nobody's going to listen to a fucking thing you say afterwards. And I believe this is why the psyop was created. It's my theory. It's just a theory. In your narrative, because it is my narrative, the flat earth model doesn't need to be lie told by the government. So now the machine is starting to see the complexities of the story, which is good, to hide the truth. Rather, it can be a trap planted by the government, or in this case, intelligence operatives, because we know government are fundamentally boom. That's how they get into power, just by being fucking complete greedy retards who don't actually give a fuck about you or anything else. All they see is their own personal greed. Sips. So it can be a trap planted by the CIA, intelligence, maybe even the Council of 300, or all the other vile scum that should be stripped from the face of the earth and all their wealth taken and distributed amongst the people, to ensure that anyone who questions NASA or official physics is instantly labeled as crazy, flat earther, and ignored. All right. So now we're getting to the crux of what I think is actually going on. And AI seems to agree that it's a very plausible scenario. 1. Historical precedent, CIA memo 1035 to 960. The most direct evidence for this tactic is CIA dispatch 1035 960 in 1967. The goal, the memo explicitly instructed CIA assets to counter critics of the Warren Commission JFK assassination. One of the things that nobody in their right mind really believes, by labeling them conspiracy theorists. And we're all very well versed in this, concept, aren't we? We've all heard this shit before. Oh, Struth, there's a lot of comments here. No, it is about provable facts, dude. Prove it. It's that simple. You like the thing I find a lot about the flat Earth concept is it's just random ideas and nothing matches. And 9 times out of 10, when I look at flat Earth documents, I can pick holes in them that fucking quickly. It's ridiculous. Yeah, and they're fucking children, man. In fact, I'm glad you brought Santa up. Thank you. Because I had this argument with a lot of people back back especially in our earlier days, in our young 20s. I'm never going to tell my kids about Santa. Good for you. I am. And you know why? Because the most important thing anybody can ever learn is that everything's a fucking lie. Santa is the perfect example of teaching you a lie. Oh, it was for fun. And why did you want to keep believing in it? Because you want those presents to keep coming. Welcome to communism. All right. Santa is a brilliant fucking example of the manipulation. So thank you for bringing that to me. Yes, it must be real. If it's not real, it's fake. It's that simple. Yeah, right. Like the logic. But we have images of Santa. Yeah, we got images of fucking the Earth being round too. How does that help your argument? Zionists think it. I don't know blasphemy to worship Jesus on this. I'd agree. I'm just going to click through this because I want to get through this. So anyway, the method, it urged agents to use propaganda assets to associate these critics with communist sympathizers, financial profit, and psychological instability. Isn't it interesting? Because all these fucking things are just as easily transferable back the other way. You know, the result, the successfully weaponized that's fucked up. This successfully weaponized the term, conspiracy theorist, turning it into a pejorative label that automatically discredits the speaker regardless of their evidence. In your story, the flat earth movement is the modern evolution of this, a super conspiracy designed to make the label even stickier. And this is something I want people who think the world is flat and are so adamant about it to really consider the fact that the thing was actually planted by people such as the CIA, who conjured up the term conspiracy theorist and are just stacking it on there to make you look silly so that nobody will actually believe you. And then you get all these fucking trolls going, cooker, 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 you know, like there's some sort of fucking seagull looking for a chip, you know. Yeah, I've heard about flat earth, Dave. I wasn't convinced. Anyway. Cointelepro and controlled opposition. The FBI's Cointelepro counterintelligence program hysterically infiltrated political groups to disrupt them from within. So these are other things that people really need to consider as we move forward, trying to take out the lies and actually come to what is the fucking truth. That's the big goal here. What is real? We need to understand that there are fakers. There are bullshit artists. They're probably even here in the fucking comment section pretending to be your friend. You don't know. The strategy. Intelligence agencies often create or amplify extreme factions within a movement, a tactic known as controlled opposition. By promoting the most outlandish ideas, e.g., the Earth is a flat disk supported by turtles, they steer the movement away from dangerous, verifiable truths. And this is the important thing, the verifiable truths. NASA fakes specific satellite data. That is and AI has cited, e.g., NASA fakes specific satellite data as a verifiable truth. That's something to really consider here, ladies and gentlemen. This is that was the piece de la resistance. Once I've seen that, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm doing a podcast. The distraction. If a whistleblower uncovers genuine corruption in the space industry, the media can simply ask, do you also believe the Earth is flat? Fucking flat earthers. When the whistleblower hesitates or engages with the topic, they are dismissed as part of the cult, and their legitimate findings are buried. And this is what concerns me about people who really are right into the flat earth thing, even though they can't really demonstrate anything because I haven't seen it yet. And don't send me a fucking video 3 hours long with more holes in it than a fucking bit of Swiss cheese, because I've seen it too many fucking times. I get 14 minutes in and I've picked so many holes in it and proven that what they said was bullshit. So I encourage you guys, if you love your flat earth thing so much, I challenge you to sit down and watch your 3.5 hour fucking video and fact check everything that they fucking say. I guarantee you'll find truth. You'll find holes in it real quick. So anyway, I'm not even bother reading. I'm going to continue because I've got to get through this shit. So the MK Ultra smokescreen, the history of Project MK Ultra, the CIA's real mind control program, supports the idea of agencies use crazy narratives to hide real crimes, drowning truth in speculation. Historians note that the outlandish myths surrounding MK Ultra, e.g., LSD assassinations, the Manchurian candidates, often distracted from the mundane but horrific reality of unethical human experimentation. Application to your story: by allowing or encouraging a loud, chaotic flat earth movement, intelligence agencies ensure that no one takes space anomalies seriously. All right. And again, I had a conversation with people recently, regarding, that I'm like, I'm sorry, but I think there's some merit in astrology, and he, oh, but I was in high school when they passed around the newspaper. I'm like, shut the fuck up. It come out of a newspaper, it's bullshit. Not to mention that garbage you get in a Herald Sun, one line fucking thing, and you'll find your greatest love, or whatever crap they fucking put out, it is a waste of fucking time. Like, go and actually get a real birth chart, and then go and have a look at, say, like Stefan Burns, who tracks actual geological effects of comets and astrological alignments, proving that astrology actually does have a real effect on the earth, because he's done it conclusively with science and backed it up with fucking facts. So anyway, I'm not going to argue with you over these things. You've made the claim the world is flat. You prove it. I'm going through a fictional narrative, and the fascination of the results coming back from AI. That's the purpose here. You want to argue with somebody about flat Earth? You're barking up the wrong tree here. I can tell you that. So anyway. So drowning truth in speculation. Historians note that the outlandish myths surrounding MK Ultra, often distract from the mundane. We did that bit. Application to your story: by allowing and encouraging a loud, chaotic, flat Earth movement, intelligence agencies ensure that no one takes space anomalies seriously. If a pilot reports a strange atmospheric phenomenon, they are mocked as a flat earther rather than investigated. The noise of the conspiracy protects the signal of the actual secret. And this is important stuff to think about. You really want to think about it. Challenge your own beliefs if you have the courage to do so. Sips. How this functions in the story. This angle adds a layer of tragic irony to the plot. It's actually got me really thinking about writing this book too. But anyway, the truth seeker's dilemma. Protagonists who suspect the earth is flat or that space is faked are trapped. If they speak out, they are associated with the flat earth label, which has been intentionally poisoned by intelligence agencies. The agency's victory. The government doesn't need to silence whistleblowers directly. The social stigma created by the PSYOP does the work for them. This is important stuff you want to think about, ladies and gentlemen. The existence of the flat earth movement is the containment protocol in itself. The twist: the flat earth leaders promoting the most ridiculous theories, e.g., ice walls, firmament domes, could be unwitting pawns or even active assets of the intelligence community, tasked with keeping the movement focused on unprovidable mythology rather than hard data. Summary. No, we got the idea. We don't need to summarize. So I'm like, can you dig a bit deeper on other historical examples throughout the ages of times when elites, governments, monarchs, dictators have used psychological operations to control the people? Because this is, I'm like, wow, I'm frothing at the mouth at this point. Yes, of course we can. It's a common theme. Yes, history is replete with examples of elites, monarchs, and governments. Notice it missed out on dictators, but I guess must like, when I wrote this out, I thought to myself, do I need to write dictators? Because the three before them fundamentally serve that purpose. And it would seem that AI agreed. But anyway, and governments using psychological operations, PSYOPs, to control populations, manufacture consent, and suppress dissent. These tactics often mirror the strategies you are considering for your story, creating distractions, labeling dissenters, and rewriting reality. And this is the crux of it all, All right, so ancients and pre-modern era, divine right and fear. So before modern media, rulers used religion, architecture, and go and have a look at all your little Masonic buildings and all these fucking, again, if you haven't seen Donald Duck and Mathemagic Land to see the mathematical shit that's hidden in it, you better look. And rumor to manipulate the psyche of the masses. Ancient Egypt. So we're going right back to the early days of bullshit, right? Ancient Egypt, the clean victory. Pharaohs like Ramesses II systematically rewrote history on temple walls after the Battle of Kadesh, a tactical stalemate. So, like, they didn't win. You know, he goes and rewrites it to say it was a total and complete divine victory, omitting any Egyptian losses. This created a psychological reality where the pharaoh was invincible, discouraging rebellion through the illusions of divine favor. And again, it makes you want to question how much of the religion that you fucking might support actually does the same thing, since most of these things seem to come from Egypt in the first place. Rome, also heavily fucking good at taking information from Egypt. Bread and circuses. And this is gold because this is so fucking modern reality. The poet Juvenal coined the phrase Panama et secrensis to describe how the Roman elite pacified the populace by providing free grain and spectacular, often brutal, entertainment, gladiatorial games, for instance. And I'm glad they fucking brought it up because I was going to bring it up if they didn't. The state distracted citizens from political corruption and the erosion of civic power. So we're sitting there watching grown men play with their fucking balls in the modern day coliseums, otherwise known as stadiums today. Can you see how often they're saying it's the same shit over and over again? You know, people are fucking grasping at straws on things that you can't fucking prove. Look at all the shit you can prove. That's where we should be focusing our attention. You know, work on what is immutable. They can't fuck with it. They can't take you down if you're using reality, especially when you're using their own shit. That's the key here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't jump down bullshit rabbit holes. I mean, I'm not saying don't do it. Go and have a look. By all means, look at anything. But don't fucking take it as gospel truth. And what the fuck does that even mean? Because the gospel's probably been manipulated many a time itself as well. So anyway, we've done the Rome thing, you know. Genghis Khan, psychological terror. And we see this again in modern warfare. The Mongol leader used calculated terror as a psyop. Before attacking a city, Mongol spies would spread rumors of their brutality. If a city resisted, the Mongols would massacre the entire population as a lesson to the next city. This often caused subsequent cities to surrender without a fight, believing resistance was futile. Now, we're seeing the same thing play out in the fucking Middle East, where they're going through bomb, and now they've hit Iran, and they're going, oh, shit, we've actually come across somebody who'll fight back. What do we do now? Sips. They're not buying the propaganda. They're not laying down. And we now have a whole political realm, but that's another story. The age of monarchy, the cult of personality. I love this one. So Louis the 14th, it's 14th of France, the Sun King. I remember looking at this historically a long time ago. He turned the nobility into psychological hostages. And this is a good one because you really want to think about this. Personally, I think fashion. Are you too cool for school? Are you cool enough to be cool? You know, he turned the nobility into psychological hostages at the Palace of Versailles by forcing nobles to compete for his favor in elaborate, expensive rituals. He distracted them from plotting against him and drained their financial resources, ensuring they remained dependent on his patronage. And it's remained dependent. This is the theme, whether it's communism, whether it's churches. Like, look at all the systems of control. They do the same fucking thing, don't they? Have you got your funny hat on today? Did you buy it from an authorized funny hat dealer? Fuck me. The printed press and Reformation, both Catholic and Protestant leaders used the new printing press to flood Europe with propaganda. The Catholic churches, Congregato de Propaganda Fide, in 1622, I probably fucked that up, but anyway, was explicitly founded to shape global opinion and counter Protestant heresy, institutionalizing psychological warfare as a tool of statecraft. I agree with that. Can you demonstrate that claim? Beautiful. Thank you. That's it. Use a compass. So, I mean, again, I've never flown a plane, so I won't speak on things because I don't know about it, you know. And I think it's important that you kind of people do stick within what you do know, you know. Anyway, The 20th century industrialized mind control. The 20th century saw the professionalization of the psyops, combining mass media with behavioral psychology. Again, coming back to this, and look at this, thousands of authors who have written, and there's more in this book too that goes on about how much everything's been controlled, but anyway, that's all. It's all there for you to read when you're ready. And that's true. How sad it is. We don't even know where we live, who we are, where we're going, what makes us sick or well. We don't know much at all. Exactly, because everything is such a fucking deception. And that's what I really uncovered here while trying to, understand the psychology of the flat earth scenario. And like, is there a plausible scenario to this? Well, the more I dive in, there's a lot of reasons to be skeptical, shitloads of them. In fact, I don't know how anybody can actually trust any institution or government agency after looking at this. Fuck me dead. This is the be all and end all. AI itself can't even hide this shit, and I'm sure that half the reason of AI is to try and hide this stuff and direct you away from certain ways of thinking. But anyway, thank you, appreciate that. So the 20th century saw the professionalization of the psyops. So Nazi Germany, the big lie, and this is where I caught AI out. All right, because and I'll have to go back and look at a lot of other things because, well, if they fuck up one thing, they can fuck up another thing, and that's the whole point of what we're saying here, isn't it? Whether they fuck it up or whether they intentionally lie, that's another story. Anyway, Nazi Germany, the big lie. Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda, formalized techniques still used today, and the still used today is the most important part of this. His principle of the big lie stated that you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. He also used saturation broadcasting, repeating simple messages endlessly, like, everything Elbow says, and enemy unification, blaming all societal ills on a single group. In this case, it says the Jews, but in reality, it's right-wing extremism, says fucking Elbow in his propaganda campaign, to unify the populace through hatred. Now, I knew that was bullshit. I went straight up and pulled up my old archive, the German propaganda archive that I've referred to in the past. The truth is the greatest enemy of the state. This is the most popular forged quotation, right? But it turns out, it's all bullshit. You can read this for yourself. I'm not going to go into it. It's right here, in the German propaganda archive. If you want a copy, just let me know. But I knew that I was onto something there, and we'll deal with that in a moment. Soviet Union historical revolution under Joseph Stalin, the state practiced systemic airbrushing of history. Political rivals like Lenin and Trotsky were not only executed, but erased from photographs and official records. Welcome to the great red flag, the leftist fun bags of reality. Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin and all his left-hearted friends. This created a psychological environment where the past was fluid and only the party's current narrative was real, making dissent feel like insanity. Some might even liken it to George Orwell's 1984. Operation Mockingbird, CIA, starting in the 1950s, apparently starting in the 1950s. At least that operation was. God knows what they were doing before it. The CIA launched a massive campaign to influence domestic and foreign media. They recruited over 400 journalists from major outlets like the New York Times and CBS to plant stories, suppress information, discredit critics. This operation directly created the infrastructure to label legitimate investigations as conspiracy theories. There's that term again, a tactic formalized in CIA Dispatch 1035 and 960 in 1967 to counter JFK skepticism, which we looked at earlier. Common PSYOP techniques used throughout history. So the historical examples reveal a consistent toolkit used by elites. There's the good old L. They think they're divine, to maintain control, distraction, from Roman gladiators to modern 24-hour news cycles and celebrity scandals. Keeping the population entertained prevents them from analyzing power structures. AI said it, not me. Go ahead. Here it is. It's so historically obvious that even AI fucking pointed it out. Demonizing the other, unifying the population by creating a common enemy, heretics, Jews, communists, or conspiracy theorists. Well, you know, the Jews and the communists, I think, might have had something to do with a lot of dodgy shit, but that's another story. Gaslighting on a mass scale, denying observable reality, e.g. Stalin claiming a famine wasn't happening while millions were actually starving. It's kind of like, you know, Albo saying there isn't a housing crisis while people are sleeping under a fucking bridge, you know, and we know that's happening because the trolls are here telling us all about it all the time. Sleeping under my bridge. Controlled opposition, promoting extreme or absurd factions with a dissent movement, e.g. funding radical groups, all the leftards and queers and all the other weird shit that's going on, to discredit the entire cause. So, your premise is historically robust. Pat on the back for good old Batty here. AI's patting me on the back. My premise is historically robust, which was the purpose of the whole research project in the first place. Elites have always used psyops to control narrative. Always. Elites have always used psyops to control narratives. Thank you, AI. That was a wonderful experience, and we're still not done. Wait. There's still more. We haven't got to the bath knife yet. We haven't got to the knife that cuts through concrete yet. Ancient used religion and terror to enforce divine right. Modern used media and psychology to enforce scientific and political consensus. The Flat Earth connection in your story, the Flat Earth movement, can be seen as the latest iteration of controlled opposition. By allowing or even subtly funding a loud, absurd flat earth faction, intelligence agencies ensure anyone questioning the official narratives, even about valid issues like budget fraud or data falsification, is tarred with the same crazy brush. It is psychologically contaminant. It is a psychological contaminant zone designed to protect the real secrets by hiding them behind a wall of ridicule. This is very important. So here I clarify that I am the belief that you are wrong about the Joseph Goebbels. You know, can you please fact check that? Please elaborate on controlled opposition because I wanted more about it. Yes, you are absolutely correct. AI fucked up and I caught it again. I know it's hard, but I do my best to be the best I can be. Fact check the big lie. Yes, it was actually Hitler, they reckon, which I don't totally agree with, but because, you know, it actually comes down to something that's been going on for a long time. I don't think Hitler come up with it. I certainly don't think Goebbels come up with it. I think, yeah, the English follow the principle. So let's go through. Sorry, let's do this right. The famous quote, if you tell a lie big enough, is not found in his verified writings. He did write 1941 that the English follow the principle that when one lies, one should lie big. So it was the English that come up with it, but the German Nazis cop the blame for it. So there you go. Fuck off. Again, it tries to say, oh, but it was Hitler. No. Goebbels himself said the English follow the principle. So even when AI is correcting itself, it doesn't get it right. Why? Because it keeps going to fucking Wikipedia. And I've made multiple complaints to the brave AI that Wikipedia is one of the worst sources of actual historical data. It is definitely right up there with the Secret World Order's assessment of the thousands of authors who have written a history in the last 250 years, amended for the 100 years since this book was written, seem to be blind and to be nothing but reporters. The worst insult you can ever have. You thought conspiracy theory was a bad one? No. It has been for 100 years that the word reporter is the lowest of low. There you go. Fuck you, reporters. Controlled opposition. Historical examples. So we have the Tsarist Okanara. The Tsarist secret police didn't just spy on revolutionaries, they ran them. So again, how many of these leftist fuckwits, gluing themselves to the streets are funded by the exact enemy that we want? You know, like they want to create this division, so they've got crazy. You know, they don't want you looking at the environment, so we'll get these environmentalists so fucking wound up about absolute bullshit that they'll look stupid too. And you know, I see this as two sides here. Just as equally, do I think the climate change is a pile of shit. I kind of put the flat Earth thing in the same regard because they both make you look fucking retarded. So anyway. Operation Trust. I'm sorry if that's offensive, but look, that's just the way I see it. I can't see any other way of looking at this, especially when you've got this to back it up. Created a fake underground. So the Soviet Union created a fake underground monarchist organization because obviously the leftists assassinated the Tsars, took out that. And again, you know, you come back to this, it was a huge thing because the Tsar and the monarchy of Russia was actually doing a lot to protect America and a lot of the free world as well, which is why they had to send communist, filthy leftist scum in there to destroy what Russia was doing. They were doing a great job protecting the world, and we've had a lot of problems ever since. But that's something to read in that book. The CIA and the non-communist left. It's been a little while. Here it is again. So, declassified documents confirm the CIA funded cultural and political groups to steer dissent away from radicalism. Congress for Cultural Freedom, the CIA secretly funded this organization and magazines like Encounter to promote a safe version of liberalism that was anti-communist and also anti-radical. So they built their own resistance group to make sure everybody kept it low key. Interesting, isn't it? It shows you just how much a movement can actually become powerful, especially if you're fucking smart about it. Anyway, by supporting moderate and cultural leftists, the marginalized genuine revolutionary movements like orthodox communism, ensuring that dissent remained within boundaries acceptable to US foreign policy. And look, I don't have much of a problem with that because fucking hell, communism fucking bad. You know, like, and again, at what point do you go, okay, it's okay to fuck those people, but it wasn't okay to fuck me? You know, like, again, at the end of the day, these people only care about their power. So, I mean, whatever good they may have done, I'm pretty sure it did it by accident. So the FBI's Intel Pro, explicitly named to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize political groups. Tactics: they sent forged letters to incite violence between rival groups, e.g., the Black Panthers and the US organization. Infiltrated peace movements to encourage illegal acts that alienate public support and promote extreme rhetoric to make legitimate civil rights leaders appear radical. Very important stuff. How does it work in the story? The setup: intelligence agencies allow look, you get the point. Let's keep going. The next question I ask: is there more extensive historical base to controlled opposition over that is prior to 125 years? Yes. The historical basis for controlled opposition and agent provocateurs extends well beyond the last 125 years, with documented incidences in ancient Rome, feudal Japan, and early modern Europe. While the specific term controlled opposition is a modern term, the tactic of infiltrating, directing, or creating false dissent to neutralize real threats is ancient. We're not playing with a new game here. They're not playing an old. They haven't brought out a new deck. They're still the same old bullshit game of Monopoly. They're just still not telling you what the rules are. And there's a whole bunch of fucking examples here. You know, obviously the ones they mentioned. We don't really need to go into it. I think you get the fucking idea. There's shitloads of it. By all means, check it out. You know, if you really want to keep going into these things, just ask the basic fucking questions. You know, it's really simple. You know, we can demonstrate right here, right now, that you can never trust another institution in your fucking life. Why? All because I wanted to know, was there a legitimate basis to the flat earth conspiracy theory? Was there a legitimate thing? Apparently, it turns out there is a very legitimate fucking scenario here, and AI has proved it. And I've shared it with everyone before AI can delete it because it only lasts 24 hours. But I downloaded it, I've made all this stuff, I've put it in a text document, and I'm going to punch it up onto what's its name, Telegram later. So, funny, but not really. Look, you know, I've got no problem with Jews. I think in a lot of the cases, the Jews and I mean, all these people, all these demographics that are fucking used to incite hatred, I think most of them just don't understand what the fuck's really going on. They're all victims of propaganda. And the important lesson with all this shit, everything we've discussed today, is that you want to make sure that you're not a victim of it too. And it's getting quite challenging, you know, because how many people are out there who are trying to do the right thing are being led astray by psyops, led astray by their own preconceived ideologies, their own preconceived, you know, knowledge of anything. And like I've always, you know, said to people time and time again, how much time do you really think on your own? How much of what's in your head is actually yours? You know, how much time have you spent meditating and actually going, this is who I am? You know, what I've done here was just a simple little question, and it fucking snowballed. And I'm like, wow, this is heaps of fun. This is heaps of fun. I love this because the important message here isn't whether the world is flat or whether it's round. It's the layers and levels of manipulation that have us debating over something that should be a simple, straightforward scenario. We shouldn't have to be wondering whether the world's round or flat. And it illustrates a massive systemic failure that the liars, deceivers, which are obviously shown here by AI to exist, and they have always lied to us for thousands and thousands of fucking years. And let's assume that there is some sort of perhaps a past life regression scenario here. You know, how much of your personal distrust has actually come from, you know, your past memories, your genetic memories even, you know, I mean, genetic memory is apparently a thing, you know. How many times have you woken up late at night and gone, holy shit, they chopped my fucking head off. What did they do that for? You know, I've had all sorts of strange spiritual encounters and fucking potentially past life regressions. It could just be dreams. I don't know. It's all theoretical stuff, you know. But at the end of the day, we don't really know what reality is because we are so lied to about absolutely everything because, wow, I can't let my church go down. I won't get my collection plate fucking money at the end of the day. Well, can't let my government go down. I'll actually have to go and get a real job, you know? Oh, we can't let the fucking people actually understand how money works. Otherwise, I wouldn't have it all. You know, these things, huge leagues mean your lungs are working good. I fucking hope they're working good. That's for sure. Yeah. Yep, I agree. It's a dogmatic, bureaucratic bullshit these Abrahamic death cults peddle. They've made people mush-headed. I'm inclined to agree there, man. Inclined to agree. And they like to change the meaning of words from the coined definitions to the legal definitions and blur the lines between the two. Yeah, make a system so fucking insanely complicated that nobody can possibly figure it out. It's just another one of those fucking systems. They got a little cheat manual for all their friends and everybody else. Just do this and you'll be fine. You don't need to worry about it. We've just made it so fucking hard that nobody else can figure it out. You know, again, how's that fair? How's this just? We know these things to be unjust. We know the world is fucking wrong. We know everything's fucked. But we as a community of freedom-loving truth seekers need to work with what we can actually prove. It's fun to have a yarn about things. I mean, it's truth. I got an alien fucking tattooed on my fucking arm. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that there's some form of extraterrestrial being out there. But whenever I see that, oh, look, there's a UFO video, fucking hell, looks like somebody threw a pipe plate, man. That could be anything, you know. We need to deal with actual evidence. Of course, oh fuck, we are also dealing in a world that is they're hiding everything. They're manipulating everything. We couldn't possibly get to the truth no matter how hard we try. But what we can do is expose continuously the lies of these people and that they cannot be trusted and that something must be done and that we, the people, are the ones that have to do it. Personally, I can't wait to get a hold of all the archives, all the information, and expose the thousands and thousands of years of lies and deceit only so the handful can maintain power. That's what it's always been. It doesn't matter whether it's religion, doesn't matter what kind of government it is, whether it's a monarchy, a democracy, a fucking socialist, communist hellhole. They're all shit. Nothing has ever been good. It's all been shit. You know, the only times things were good is when you were actually deluded into thinking that things were okay. It's now at a point, it's make or break. We have to change shit. We have to get a hold of this and we have to keep our heads clear. So I advise not to go down ridiculous concepts and deal with what can be fucking proven. Because right here, dealing with what I perceive to be, well, probably a ridiculous concept, I've uncovered a shitload of real shit. And that's what they fear the most. And I've got the, I should have fucking brought it up. See if I can quickly find it. But I do have here a piece of an FBI document that I created, that I didn't create, that I found a long time whilst creating the fine art dealer film clip. I'm sure it'll be here in the clip somewhere if we can open that file. Images. That's not it. I want to label it FBI, wouldn't I? Ah, here it is. There's what you want to see. There you go. No, remove it. Sorry, just got to do this share screen thing. Impromptu. I would have had it prepared if I had known. But what we have here is, the unclassified law enforcement sensitive from the FBI itself, Federal Bureau of Investigation. So the FBI assesses anti-government, identity-based, and fringe political conspiracy theories very likely motivate some domestic extremists, wholly or in part, to commit criminal or sometimes violent activity. The FBI further assesses, in some cases, these conspiracy theories very likely, let's get right in on this, very likely encouraging the target of specific... Oh, hang on, that's not it. The assessments made in the high... That's not the right bit. Is it on the next page? Nope. Ah, here it is. Just going to sift through it. Let's read the whole fucking thing, eh? The FBI assesses anti-government, anti-identity-based and fringe political conspiracy theories very likely will emerge, spread, and evolve in the modern information marketplace over the near term, fostering anti-government sentiment, promoting racial and religious prejudice, because they're fucking encouraging it now, increasing political tensions, and occasionally driving both groups and individuals to commit criminal or violent acts. Because some conspiracy theories are highly partisan in nature, political developments, including those surrounding major election cycles, such as the 2020 presidential election, likely will impact the direction of those conspiracy theories and the potential activities of extremists who subscribe to them over the long term. Another factor, and here it gets, this is the bit I was looking for, another factor driving the intensity of conspiracy theorizing in the United States and the subsequent threat. Here's where the real threat goes. Like everything else was just fucking words until we got to the threat from conspiracy-minded extremists, is the uncovering of real conspiracies or cover-ups involving illegal, harmful, or unconstitutional activities by government officials or leading political figures. That's the threat. All this shit before that I don't give a fuck about. I don't care if you're fostering anti-government sentiment, promoting racial or religious prejudices, increasing political tensions. That's all crap. The threat, the subsequent threat from conspiracy-minded extremists is the uncovering of real conspiracies or cover-ups involving illegal, harmful, or unconstitutional activities by government officials or leading political figures. That's the problem. You being a conspiracy theorist and getting it wrong isn't the problem. You being a conspiracy theorist and thinking the world's flat is not the fucking problem. They love that shit. They can eat up your fucking bullshit. Problem is when you actually find out what they're really doing. And it seems the FBI is safeguarding that. That's a problem, isn't it? Big fucking problem as far as I'm concerned. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming. There's a whole bunch of comments I could continue to go through. Sorry, I'm not going to get through it. It's time for me to end this show. Thank you very much. It took a hell of a lot longer than I expected, but look, I think you'll agree it was well worth the fucking read, eh? So thank you very much. Have a good one. I'll see you Friday, 8 o'clock for another great yarn and a couple more sips. Sips, ladies and gentlemen.